Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
How do we safeguard and preserve various works of the Acharyas, books, historical recordings, occurrences, etc., from getting manipulated or distorted, especially in today's digital world? Ultimately, these are the wealth of our Sampradaya and the only saving grace for many centuries.
There is no way. Everything will get changed. Everything is, it's like the law of gravity. You let go of it, it goes down. It's a constant game to keep it up, keep it in the air. Like they play this game called hacky sack, where you kick the ball with your foot. The idea is to keep the ball in the air. That's the nature of this world. What happens? You take a bath, you get clean, what happens? You start getting dirty instantly. You start sweating, dust blows, you know. That's the nature of this world. Everything, you endeavor to establish it. As soon as you let go of it, it just goes down. It's the nature of this world. So it is the duty of the devotees, particularly the sannyasis and others who are initiated devotees. It's their duty to keep up the standard. And so by the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I mean, things were so bad he couldn't find a copy of the Caitanya Charitamrita. Now if you want to find a copy of the Caitanya Charitamrita, you just go to basically any Hare Krishna temple in the world, throughout India and abroad, you're going to find Caitanya Charitamrita. But in the time of Bhaktivinoda, he couldn't find one. I think it took him some years and years before he could even find it. He'd heard about the book. Can you imagine? He'd heard about it. Everything, Chaitanya Bhagavat, everything, everybody had put their little 2 cents in there. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, it seems, had disappeared for a good reason, so nobody could change it. It means different groups, maybe, let's say the Sahajya groups, there's some impersonalists, there's Smartas. Smartas aren't Sahajyas. They started putting little stumbling blocks inside some of these literatures for the Gaudiyas. In fact, they even went so far in Bengal, this is Bengal, to write whole false books where they would just put everything according to the Gaudiya philosophy. What is that one book I'm thinking of? It's Advaita Prakash or something. It's about Advaita Acharya. It's supposed to be written by his household servant. Ishan. Bad. Humbug. So the whole thing just looks like a carbon copy of Chaitanya Bhagavat, just flows with all that sweet bhav of the Bengali bhaktas. And then there are only like 2 or 3 places in the whole book where they inject the poison. You take it, you're dead. It kills the whole sampradaya. One question in the book, it's someone like it's Achyutananda, the son of Advaita Acharya, who was a great Sankirtan leader after the time of Mahaprabhu, and he was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. So, Achyutananda asked his father, Advaita Acharya, oh, what is that mantra for worshipping Mahaprabhu? What is, maybe he asked him, not Mula mantra, what is that essential mantra for worshipping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So, Advaita replies, oh, there's no special mantra, simply Krishna mantra. Right? Now, that's not true. That's a particular point in the Gaudiya Vaishnava history, philosophy, mantra, and all these things. Because you have to have a place, you have to have a deity, you have to have a mantra, you have to have a goal. You only have 1 or 2 of those things, you don't go anywhere. You need 4 wheels on a car. And a lot of other things. So to go forward, you need all these different things. And if you can flatten 1 tire, I don't care how good your car is, you're not going anywhere. It's just like ka-pong, 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 right? So as soon as you remove the mantras that we have for worshiping Mahaprabhu, particularly our Gayatri mantras, the whole thing just falls apart. You say, oh, now you're worshiping with false mantras, oh this, oh that, and it's like the sweater that Grandma was knitting all year, and a cat comes along and pulls, walks away, and the whole sweater just unravels. So that's one thing. And there was something else about who can be guru. And it went to the Brahmin castes, you see, in the book. And those are like the two main things. Everything else is like, oh, this is such nectar, this is sweet nectar, this is the nectar of, the time back in the day, and the Dwaita, and Ishan saw it all, and he writes the story. It's a total bogus book. It was written about 100 plus, a little more than 100, maybe less than 150 years ago. And it's written just to undermine Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And it's for sale in every Hare Krishna bookstore practically. Nobody. And people just read right through and go, oh, nectar Prabhu. Pass it around. Nectar Prabhu. Prabhupada said, forget the nectar. Let's get to work. Really sweet, very nectar, all this type of stuff. This is the wish of the neophyte. That I can have it all without endeavor, without earning it, without deserving, I will get. So that battle is forever. And it seems that ultimately we lose the battle. Well, why? Because this is the material world, not the spiritual world. We lose the battle and win the war. That's the fate of everything in this world. We can win the battle. We lose so many battles here in this world, but we win the war. Back to home, back to Godhead. That's the goal. Everyone has to have that aspiration to some extent. You have to have a desire, not for mukti, but for self-realization. And this is like the bounce back from ignorance. This is when we get so tired of ignorance, we aspire for some higher platform. Understand? Mm-hmm. So it's a duty. A friend of mine wrote me recently, he's a very acidic person, in a sense. He really pours on the acid when he finds something that isn't right. But he's coined this word, feel-good Krishna consciousness. This is what's being marketed today, feel-good Krishna consciousness. When's the last time a guru told his disciples, eat less, sleep less? Prabhupada said it hundreds of times. Krishna consciousness means some austerity, It isn't that, Krishna consciousness means marry one of the pujaris who was a good cook for the deities and then she can cook well for you. This happens hundreds of times in the Hare Krishna movement. You see, a young girl joins, has some skills she doesn't even know about because nobody learns to cook in the material world hardly anymore. But then she learns to cook, becomes a great cook. But, she's marriageable age, it's natural, she wants a family, she marries, and then she's cooking for her husband. And every time I visit the householders in the West, and I know that the motto was a deity cook, I say, don't make these nice things for your husband, just give him khichdi and poppers. You cook malpura for Krishna, rasgula for Krishna, not for your husband, don't cook that stuff for him. He's not worth it. Not worth it. Vaishnava, but not worth that. He can have the maha. So, but anyway, back to the point, my friend has used this word several times. They try to make everything a very feel-good society. Even amongst bona fide devotees. I mean, bona fide who should know better. Radhe, Radhe, flag a rickshaw, Radhe, Radhe, say goodbye, Radhe, Radhe. Since when? Since when? Do you find anyone in our line taking the name of Radharani for hello, goodbye, and do you have a flat tire? I mean, it's for everything. It's just, no, that's not the way it is done. And there are just many things, people just getting in the happy mood. Well, Krishna consciousness is meant to be joyful, but it's not meant to be in joy. There's a difference. The joy in service is quite different from the enjoyment that we try to take out from any situation in this world. The pleasure of serving Krishna is innate and natural. But the pleasure that we derive from material energy is not natural. It's unnatural, and it's false. In other words, like in the market, some product like honey, all over the world, 85% plus of the honey is totally bogus. It's better off just eating a spoon of sugar. It has no value as honey. But it looks like it. So we have to be careful that Krishna consciousness doesn't become like that. It looks like it. It looks Krishna conscious. But it isn't. So anyway, I thought this was a very interesting word he coined. the feel-good society, feel-good Krishna consciousness. Make everybody feel good. But the old saying is the truth hurts, doesn't it? And the Bhagavatam says a sadhu's words are supposed to be like a knife, not a buttercup. Not a bowl of butter. Ghee. A knife. And they're supposed to cut. No nonsense. Not like, oh, let me try to help you out here and untangle this mess. This mess is That's the only way you can deal with it. Just whack it, you know. When you try to disentangle yourself in the material world to become Krishna conscious, you'll find out you never get there. The whole time is trying to get disentangled. Just forget it. Just be Krishna conscious. And then you look back at that mess, and you'd be surprised how many things can solve themselves, especially if you haven't messed up too bad. You know, maybe it takes a couple of years to get out, but it's a way of thinking. You don't think, let me get out of the trouble before I go to Krishna. That's not possible. The trouble will catch you always, forever, forever. You just have to go to Krishna. It doesn't necessarily mean that you leave the troubles and don't solve them, but the solution will come to you much different when you put your priority as Krishna. Like I've said, you know, cynically many times, what is number one? I figured God is in third or fourth place, Guru is in fourth or fifth place. I forget what it is, but no question about it. Boss is number one. Boss. Boss says you're working on Janmashtami, you're working on Janmashtami. This is the way it goes. Boss is first, not God, boss. Boss says you're going to Rajasthan, you're going to Rajasthan. And if you don't take the job, you lost your job. So boss, I just noticed, you know, devotees and everything, and then job, they're gone. Job is number one. Although it's not number one for them. They can't figure out how to work around it because the world has, encroached upon every living being on this planet to an almost unbelievable extent of degree. Hindustan follows the Christian calendar. You know? Even the Muslim world follows the Christian calendar. Banks are closed on Sunday. What do we care a bean for Sunday? I hate Sundays. I hate Sundays. It's like the day off that we reserve for God. You know. Well, guess what? Maybe he's not at home on Sunday. Correct. No, because Sunday, religion got, it's Sunday. It's just this thing. I call it the banker's week. It's not even Christian. It's bank. Bank runs. Not religion. Bank runs. All right, so back to your question. You understand? I don't want to go into long answers this morning.
This was my question, based on something we were talking about in class the other day. Recently in class we've been discussing Guru Tattva. In particular we discussed how in the modern Krishna conscious movement many so-called gurus have retired and left thousands of disciples. What is the position of those disciples considering the institution they're in, were they actually initiated in the first place, and how to comprehend that thousands of devotees were cheated?
Don't bother. You get what you deserve. It's not our headache. Although we might, you know, if you see people in the ocean, you stick your hand out. But I'm not jumping in the ocean to get them. That's to refer to Srila Sridhar Maharaj in this. He said, their faith enters limbo. Their solace must be the lotus feet and the mercy of Lord Nityananda. Otherwise, they're in limbo and they are lost. Simple as that. Now, Giri once asked, after he met us once in South India, he met all the devotees. He talked to one sannyasi in ISKCON and he said, I met these devotees in South India. None of them had shaved heads or anything, but they seemed to be like nice devotees. What's their destination? He was quite a bit younger then, so yeah. What's their destination in life? And that sannyasi said, next life they'll have to be born in ISKCON.
Yeah.
If they want to go back to God. Very Catholic that was. Right, very Catholic. As far as the Catholics are concerned, the only people in heaven are the Catholics. So, the world needs Krishna consciousness, and it needs a society, and it needs all the kind of things that groups do and that we do and everything. But, doctor, cure thyself. You know, I went to this hospital down here years ago, you know, the Columbia, remember? And I'm getting a heart checkup, and I run in there, and I run in to see, and there's my heart doctor coming out of the cafeteria with a plate with two sunny side up eggs, fried eggs, and some toast with some sugary jam on it. And I looked at this lady and said, okay, I'll be right in. I never went to see her again. What's this lady know about a heart condition, health? She's an Indian lady eating 2 sunny side up fried eggs in the morning. It's like, what do you know about health? Goodbye. You know, she didn't know anything about health, heart. Just follow this chart, give this medicine. If he dies, well, make sure he signed this paper before the hospital. Right, let's
Subha had a question. We generally don't see deity forms of Krishna beating or killing demons. We see Tribhanga Krishna, Baby Krishna, and Kaliya Mardana Krishna. So what is the significance of this form of Kaliya Mardana Krishna?
Interesting. Yes, well, in the next Kali Yuga, Garuda has a vacation, and Kaliya is the Vimana, the carrier of Vishnu. So when Vishnu flies in somewhere, he's going to come flying in on the back of Kaliya. Kaliya is given the benediction. In the next Kali Yuga, Kaliya will be the Vimana, means the carrier, and Garuda will be somewhere else for that time. So that's one thing. Another thing is, Kaliya wasn't killed by Krishna. He wasn't killed by Krishna. He was chastised by Krishna. Krishna used his head as a platform to dance. And the significance is that, well, there were many things. I don't recall the things, but excuse me. The most significant thing is that he's sending a message, or he's sending a signal to the gopis of what's to come. And he's saying, do you see my dancing? See my footwork. He's dancing on the head of a vicious 100-hooded, or how many hooded cobra? Yeah, a huge cobra, and it's lashing at him with his teeth, and Krishna is playing flute and dancing. So he's showing the gopis, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, he's saying, this, practice, this is what's coming. See my foot movement, that's all. That's the most significant part. It's a prelude to the Rasa Leela. Krishna chastising Kaliya. And then Kaliya, he actually surrenders to Krishna and bows his head. Well, these other demons didn't, did they? So they lost their head. Take your choice. Bow your head or lose your head. Still things going on today. Bow your head or lose your head. The material world is like that. And that's why I was born on today, because he's chastising demons. Beat down.
Dear Lita Matri asks, in which way Gorgadada is the highest conception? Could you elaborate?
Not elaborate. Mm-hmm. And we don't pin this highest conception. Please drop those. Everything's highest conception. Gorgadadhar is not necessarily highest conception. It's become like a plague. Find the lower, more reverential conception. Don't worry about the higher conception. Because it is. What do you think this is? A newspaper gathering here? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm out to tell the world about the highest conception. No, this is not a staff meeting of newspaper. I'm not chastising you. I'm just saying for all of our benefits here. Everybody here is not on the same platform. Some people don't know what the heck you're even talking about. Some people just got second initiation. So questions have to be appropriate. Like Vishnu Maharaj's question, very nice question, should be an article. Should be an article, well thought out article, just not path of deliverance on a Sunday morning? All the questions are very good. And that question also very good. And to give you just a one-line answer, Srila Puri Maharaj says, because if you don't worship Govinda, you cannot understand Radha and Krishna. So that kind of summed that up. But then if you're worshiping Radha and Krishna and not Mahaprabhu, then you're also going to have a problem. So it's not one thing, the cure-all medicine or the one step forward or everything else is done. But it is among the quintessentials. Quintessentials. There are many things. And most people would go to Srila Puri Maharaj's temple and think they were having Gaura Nitai darshan. And people were saying, Gaura Nitai, that they go, Prabhupada never established Gaura Nitai. They get all paranoid about Gaura Nitai. And it's true, Srila Prabhupada didn't. Well, who did? Well, that's a long story. But going back in time, Bhakti Vinod certainly did. But Gaura Nitai appeared before that. Gaura Gadad, that was Gaura Nitai. That was different. Yeah, I believe it's Bhakti Vinod. Is there earlier?
Yeah, Champahati Vaninath. Vijay Vaninath, he installed Gaura Gadad at Champahati.
Champahati.
Yeah.
Okay, those would probably been the first.
Yeah.
So it would seem that people would like. That's why recently in Vrindavan I suggested to devotees who were trying to sort out their situation and their society, I said, I think you have to look a little farther back in history to understand what's going on and how you are, where you are, and what you need to do to improve yourself. You're going to have to go all the way back, not to the six Goswamis, but to Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and start there with everything. And actually, moving forward from there, you can move forward quite quickly. Understand that, Bhakti Siddhanta, Sridhar Maharaj, Puri Maharaj, and then you will see Prabhupada in a slightly different light. Not in any diminished light. This is another one they fear, They have this thing where, somehow Prabhupada has to be greater than any other living being that ever existed. That makes them feel good. That they made the right choice because he's greater than everybody and anybody. But one, that's not really true. Second, it doesn't really matter. Ami Guru, Jagat Guru, is not one of the quintessential achievements in Bhakti Yoga. That my Guru is the best of all. That's not really an achievement. That's an anartha. Or not really an anartha, but comes from anarthas. Egotistical thinking. The focus being on Ami, on me. Not on my guru. Using your guru as a badge, using him as just something to flatter yourself with, by, and so forth. Okay, so the idea is just follow parampara. Why the need of all these changes? I would say that in both men and women, people in the past were more qualified than they are today. Like in the time when Vishnu Maharaj and Giri, or Vishnu Maharaj was writing this article, Qualifications for Higher Topics or something like that.
Yeah, standards for higher leaders. Yes.
So, standards for higher leaders, that was it. So one of the arguments of the other party was, well, that was a long time ago. That was all really, kind of pre-Victorian. Now it's very, very different. And somehow or another, the person said, now the Sanghas are we can move ahead with Gita Govinda and all these higher love topics of the Supreme Godhead. And a part of our response was, people are 10 times as degraded now as they ever were in the past. That you met someone that was a vegetarian was no rare thing in India 500 years ago, or 200 years ago, or 100 years ago. I've met people who've never drank water on Ekadasi since they were adults. I've met people who've done all kinds of. I've met people who didn't take salt for 40 years. I've met all kinds of tapasis. I met a man who didn't talk for 30 years. And the West? I never met anybody that wasn't basically a Dvipadapasu, a two-legged animal, up on the top level, but that's where we all come from. Face the facts. Malecha Desh, the West. But yet they were thinking that these degraded people, degradation is what's made them qualified to hear so-called higher topics. It's just like, could we go back to square one and understand what we're trying to do? And Sridhar Maharaj said, on your higher topics, rather a dreamy thing, he said. Well, for the next life. Giri and Gorgal, particularly Giri, gets to spend a lot of time in Sanatan listening, transcribing, all these things. How many times have you come across in video or transcribes or anywhere where Sridhar Maharaj is talking about higher topics?
Really?
Then there's other people, growing list. Every time they open their mouth, it's Rasa Leela, Krishna Leela, Gopi Manjari Bhav. Every time they speak, it's just this kind of stuff, which seems to be higher. But personally, I've found it is very lower, kind of like comic book review of the higher level. What's the use? Sridhar Maharaj, on the other hand, when he does come up to some level, oh, you know it. You have an idea then what it is. From the way he speaks about it, how he approaches it, even his physical actions and all these things. What do they call it?
Physiology.
Yeah, the physical response to the topic and such. So one who has an understanding of the higher realm can understand how all things so-called from the lower realm are actually connected to that higher realm, and they are dealt with in a higher way. For example, in some societies, serving prasadam is called a menial service. Well, in the definition of Sridhar Maharaj, menial service means clean the toilet or the cow barn. Serving prasadam, the Lord's mercy, is a very high position. Who do you think you are? Well, then we need someone in a humble state of mind, and you can't give what you don't have also. So the idea of just pulling in people from the street, shaving their heads or wrapping them in a sari and then having them serve prasadam. They don't even know what prasadam is. How can they serve it? They don't know anything. So serving prasadam is not a menial activity. Prasadam is not something menial. It means the mercy of Krishna. You have to eat, you have to live. But he makes it clear in Bhagavad Gita that cooked food which is not offered is virtually only pop, karma, sin. All things you have to eat to live. But in order not to incur the karmic reaction, you have to eat certain things which are only offered to Krishna, offerable to Krishna. And that way you eat prasadam. So it's not a menial thing, although it happens every day. It's not a menial thing, it's a very high thing. It's Krishna's mercy. And only those who are experienced in Krishna consciousness should serve. And there's some people who come here, they jump right in to serve prasadam. We take the spoon right out of their hand and tell them, please have a seat. But we should look to little details. Every time I write Prabhupada's name, I make sure I spell it right. Every email, every letter, thousands of times that I spell. I mean, when you misspell your guru's name, that's probably the pinnacle of inattention. Pay attention. It's the little things that count. As the Christians say, the devil's in the details. But the devil happens to be Krishna. That word devil comes from the word deva, and the ultimate deva is Krishna. The Zoroastrians changed the devas and the asuras. The brother of, what's his name? Vashishta Muni. He changed everything, and he made the supreme god Asura Mazda, Ahura Mazda in Persia, Ahura. Asura became the primal deity, and the bad guys were the devas. And they brought monotheism, one supreme being, although they didn't have the right one supreme being, this idea, they brought the idea of one supreme being to the Jews. And the Jews adopted monotheism from the Persians. Prior to that, the Jews did human sacrifice, all kinds of everything. They were just nomadic desert goat herders. And they had all kind of misgivings and issues and problems. So they established, though, from the Persians they got their monotheism. But that monotheistic God was Ahura Mazda, which is an asura. So it's true when the Christians come out in Los Angeles and picket and boycott the Hare Krishna Ratha Yatra, and Jagannath comes by, they have this sign that says devil worshippers, devil worshippers. Well, it's a fact, because the word devil comes from Deva. And remember, in the Zoroastrians' worldview, the Devas were the Asura. They switched roles. Right? So it's actually true.
For devil worshippers.
They worship the original primal devil, Deva. David Jagatpate, the god of the gods is Krishna. And for example, the Bible says, put no other god before me. The Bible doesn't say, look, there are no other gods. Understand? If there were no other gods, there's one guy and he say, look, this is my message. You people have been worshiping sticks, rocks, and all kind of donkeys and goats. Look, there are no other gods. I'm the only one. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible says, put no other god before me. Well, that's what the Bhagavad Gita says. Krishna is primal. Don't put anything before Krishna. Krishna first. Krishna first in everything in your life, in your family, in your worship. He's the primal living entity. And the gods are the managers of so many things. The lords of the universe, the lords of countries. Even in the old days, Raja Ram. You know, the king was considered the representative of Ramachandra. Understand? Okay.
Chaitanya asks, in devotional life we've come across a few devotees who initially had served Guru sincerely, but after some time they move out or fall down due to some difficulties. So what do we infer from this, and how to avoid the same in our case?
Well, there are a number of things. Every case isn't the same. Some people fell down. It's amazing. They had so much service to Srila Prabhupada, personal service, so close, so many everything. However, service to one great soul doesn't give you a license to attack another great soul. And therein lies the fall down. And it's not that, it's the insult or Vaishnava aparad to that other great soul. Prabhupada takes it doubly so. And so it becomes an offense to their own guru. You see, if you're my son or daughter, and my brother is here, and you insult my brother, am I not insulted by your behavior? There's the insult, and then then there's the way it's made me feel that my student, disciple, son, whatever, has insulted my brother. So it's the similar thing, and people don't emphasize that anywhere near enough. You have made your apologies to Sri Maharaj, so to speak. People have gone and they've said a few things, but they didn't change their activities. What they never considered was that how their own guru must have looked upon all that happened, how disappointed or even offended he might have been. So, aparad isn't easy to commit. The most easy to commit aparad is not to pay attention. Jayadev and I have been having some interesting conversations on the value of paying attention, materially, spiritually, and everywhere in between. Attention. Pay attention to everything that you're doing. Everything has value. Everything has importance. That one, though, is very easy to commit. And it so happens, Bhaktivinoda says, then this will be like the fertile ground for all kinds of anarthas and things to grow up from the plane of inattention. Otherwise, it's hard to make Vaishnava aparad. It's very difficult. I mean, somebody says, "Oh, how do I don't make offenses?" Don't make them. How do I don't throw rocks? It's easy. Don't throw rocks. It's not like I gotta throw rocks, Throw rocks. Don't think that Krishna's name and the demigod names are the same, right? That's so hard. that so hard? If it is, you're in the wrong place. You need a psychiatrist, not a guru. Right? So it is not. It's not so difficult to avoid the 10 offenses. It's this other one that's the sneaky inattention, and then that just provides the platform for things that we're trying to eliminate to actually gain the ground. And then the chanting simply waters the anarthas and not the bhakti. And the formula in between is hear the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam will reach in, if Bhagavatam is listened and preached properly, and this is also a type of Bhagavatam, the Bhagavat conception, will pull at the anarthas, will pull out the weeds. What do we do out here in the garden? Pull out the weeds. So the whole analogy of Bhakti Yoga has been given to a garden, in Mahaprabhu, the supreme gardener. Well, we are also a gardener there. We have to tend to the Bhakti Lata, what's it called, the creeper. Bhakti Lata beach, first the seed has to grow into a creeper. We have to pay attention to the things that are good for that and eliminate the things that are bad. So offenses is one cause of fall down. Another cause is this. Okay, you enter and like, okay, here's your tickets. You know, like if you go to Epcot or you go to any of these big theme parks, you can pay tickets for different things, right? So when you enter Krishna consciousness, you have there's an opportunity given to you, you have some Sakriti of your own. Mostly there is so much mercy and opportunity is given. So it's the same way you enter the theme park, here's your tickets for all the different shows, right? But then you walk around the whole time and you don't go to any of the shows, and that guy comes up and says, sorry, we're closing in 5 minutes. Oh, I wanted to go to the aquarium. Oh, I didn't go on the Ferris wheel. Too late now. Wasting time. Sri Ramar says you have the Sukriti, you have the opportunity, and you don't take advantage of it, and the time runs out, and all of a sudden, beep, you lose interest. You go away. So, we can't just be, lazy, and not take advantage of the opportunities that we have. Opportunities for service, opportunities for learning, opportunities for practicing, all the different things, but to take advantage of them. If we don't, then we won't get any of the benefits from those things. Time will pass. You understand? Time passes. And then your Sukriti runs out. You don't have infinite Sukriti here. You had enough to get here. Now you want to increase that by progressing with what you got. Right? But people don't. They don't bear down serious. They're not serious enough. They get maybe involved too much in the social aspect. Why this is a small ashram? Well, probably because I'm here running it. Apart from that, what I've noticed is there's no social life here. There's no social life. There's just service. You're in the department, you're here, you're doing something, you're busy all day, you're doing your work, you're making finances, you're taking care of the cows. Now, if you go, say, up to Vrindavan, you can stand around and talk all the rest of your life, all day, associating with devotees, and never do any service. They're just people hanging around with their beads. I just, what are those people doing with their beads? They broke, it's like, what are they doing? If you're really chanting, how are you chanting out there with so many people running around and talking, So we do that a couple times a year. It's nice to meet everybody. Everybody comes from Bangalore, Mandya, Sraki came over from Chennai. That's also some socializing. But this is not a social scene. And people care more about social scenes than they do their own souls these days. Social scenes. The most sickening social scene I've ever seen in my life is Southern California. The only thing that tops that is Hawaii. People in Hawaii think their stool don't stink. They think they're so exalted. They live in Hawaii. They don't say Hawaii, they say Hawaii. You have to say Hawaii. If it's not ii, then you're not local, bro. This whole thing, I'm in Hawaii. I don't even know if there's a Krishna in Hawaii, is it? They used to have a bunch of tattva there, I don't know. They melted, I think. But hundreds and hundreds of devotees live there. For what purpose? Nothing but spirituality, good climate, and welfare. Bhaktivinoda says that devotees basically should not live on welfare. He doesn't mention welfare. He says you shouldn't even live on a government retirement pension. Like Jayadeva's retiring in the near future, in the next year or so, probably. But he has a pension that comes from the government. In the U.S., it's called Social Security. Bhaktivinoda says that one should not live off his government pensions, that will be an infringement in his in one's surrender to Krishna. In the renounced order of life, I'm saying, not as household, not as people in the prime of life where you have so many responsibilities. But for those retiring, he says the retirement pension, he's particularly renunciates, he's talking about, Babajis and sannyasis, that retirement money is not good for their budget. Then, well, how you're depending on Krishna? You're depending on your government stipend. So the wise thing to do is either use that money to free yourself so you can move on into your next stage of life, or to donate that forward into your next stage of life to the ashram or something. But for one to have it like, that's my little nest egg, that can actually interfere. Bhaktivinoda says that one shouldn't live like that on his pension. So then that begs the question, what did he do with his pension? Because he had one.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, government service.
Government service, he retired. So that'd be interesting to find out what he did. Because he writes about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's maybe in Dashamula or somewhere I read recently.
On Janmashtami, you were giving second initiation to the devotees. And again, you bring this topic up. It's a very current topic right now, about inattention. So you were giving some good instructions about Gayatri mantras and so on. So one of the questions that, or one of the things that sometimes comes up is that, oh, we're so busy in the day, sometimes we can't chant Gayatri.
That's true. I said that. I said that isn't not just true with us. That's true across the whole world. The Ramanujas have been here for 1,000 years. The Madhvas have been here for 700 years. Everybody has the same problem. And that's mainly because they're working. And guess what? Well, we're doing the same thing. We're also working for Krishna very hard every day. And where do you find yourself between, say, 12 and 2? Big bazaar? Or you can do an old Hare Krishna and go stand in the corner. You know, people walk by, whoa, what's this guy doing, you know? All this stuff. Sri Ramakrishna said, they had to ask him, what about chanting japa in public, on a bus or a train? And have you ever noticed, devotees, you just see devotees out there riding a train. And the people are like, things happen in the world. Yes, they're on airplanes, so many things. Chanting japa on buses, trains, stuff like that. But the idea of Gayatri means 3 times a day. But in the practical sense, it's very, very hard. Very, very difficult. And it seems the first one to go is midday.
Yeah.
So, you'll be different. Don't surrender to the hard time, figure it all out. I've been everywhere saying noon Gayatri. Subways, parks, standing next to stoplights, walking across the street. Because if you just stood there, people are going to be like, sir, is there something wrong with you? You're just frozen in time. So I just keep walking, That can be dangerous. Hit by a truck. Yes, it was a devotee killed carrying Krishna books across the street in Paris. A box of books. Walked out into the street. Pay attention. You can't use your service as an excuse for not paying attention, for not doing the right thing.
Ramesh, would it be preferable to miss a Gayatri rather than continue to do one's service whilst chanting Gayatri? There was one devotee who was telling about his experience in Gopinath Gaudiya Math where he had service all day, starting early in the morning.
So he
until
just
late at
walking
night.
around, doing
So he would be
service,
doing
chanting
some-
on board.
in one spot doing some service.
This is the Kanishta. Just chant it next time when you can sit down and meditate. This isn't Mukti Vad. Put 1 mark against you, 3 more marks, and we dock you 1 lifetime. You know, it's like, that's not what's going on. And a lot of these things, what I see is they were created in a time when you had more of a life like this. People lived by the river, the temples were going, you know, there just wasn't this run, gotta go, you know, type of lifestyle that the world has.
Guru sorry.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, like, evening Gayatri is supposed to be like at 6 o'clock, around 6 o'clock.
That's the problem when you live in Finland. When the sun doesn't rise for 6 months, and then it doesn't set for 6 months, and then when do you chant your Gayatri?
Yeah.
Once in 6 months.
So if you're like delayed, it is better to skip or still do it even if you're late by an hour or
Still do it.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Padma Purana, there's a verse says Namaparada Yuktanam, that even if we chant offensively, that there's still benefit. We still make advancement. So obviously, we don't want to chant offensively or even namabas, but yet sometimes we find ourselves in a position, not driving a car, no, but where maybe we're sick and we can't chant very well, very clearly. So is it better not to chant when we can chant like
I would say yes,
Unattainable.
that's what I do. But I know many people, they would just, no, you know, suffering your fever, about to die, having a hernia operation, chant your round. It's like, okay, do it. I'll do it tomorrow if you don't mind. But maybe I'm a little too relaxed on certain things, you know. Maybe not. Prabhupada didn't chant 16 rounds a day or 64 rounds a day. Follow his schedule. Are you blind? He woke up 2 o'clock in the morning. He did translation till after Mangalarti. Devotees came in to see him. Things were done. He went on a morning walk. He came back. He gave Bhagavatam class, great deities, Guru Puja Bhagavatam class, went to his room, took breakfast. Some devotees would come in and see him afterwards. Sometimes between 11 and 12:30, something like, he took his massage. Then he took lunch. Then he took rest. Then devotees came in at 4 o'clock and he was busy all the way till 9 or 10. Tell me when he chanted 64 rounds a day. That takes 8 hours. Even if you're Superman. 8 hours. And 16 rounds takes 2 hours of intense meditation. It takes me 3 hours because I gave up trying to do the chainsaw japa. So if you chant a round of japa in 7.5 minutes, you can chant 16 rounds in 2 hours. Now, that's quite fast. If you chant faster than a round in 5 minutes, Prabhupada said you're chanting too fast. But a round in 5 minutes, if you are chanting out loud, it sounds just like a machine gun. The only way you can really chant that fast, and not just, it makes a sound which is quite odd, because you're just adding speed, but you're adding volume. So you have to have more speed to keep up because volume just doesn't come as fast. You know what I'm saying? They go against each other. So I chant now. It takes me about 12.5 minutes to chant around a japa if I'm not disrupted. And then that takes, 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours or something like that to chant that much. So it isn't just quantity. Oh, but I did this quantity. Where's the quality? Well, I got 100 pounds of rice, don't eat it. This? We feed this stuff to the pigs, man. Go get some good rice. It's not just, I got 100 pounds, don't eat it. You know, what's the quality? Quality is everything, not quantity. A quantity of quality? Wow, that's nice. In the beginning, Prabhupada asked that the devotees chant 64 rounds a day. That's an 8-hour job at the perfected speed. Otherwise, it's all day into the night and all day and into the night, and you'll get nothing done. Nothing done. Then he requested the devotees chant 32 rounds a day. So for the 16-rounders who think, they're up the top of the mountain, that was yet another concession. And then he said 16 rounds, and that seemed to be something that could be worked out if everybody got up at 4 o'clock, and the world would go on. Our preaching, Sankirtan, what devotees had to do, they had to work jobs in those days and support the temple and stuff like that. Then that worked out. There was enough time. But that only worked is if it was pedal to the metal 24/7. There was no time. There was no time. If any little thing come up, you couldn't finish your round. It was such intense. And I'd see people wiped out after Rath Yatras, 10 days behind on their rounds. Devotees used to even leave, go back and live with their parents for a couple weeks to catch up on their rounds. And this was the thing that's still in this country. If you miss them, you catch them up, and people get weeks behind in these big festival things and stuff like this sometimes. And then, it's just, and you see them, it's just like, I don't know if this is the deal. I don't know if that's what Krishna's looking for. It's just like, I did it, Lord, I did it. Tortures, I did it. Some beating yourself up type of thing to prove yourself to Krishna. It was encouraged. I think even Prabhupada encouraged it, so that devotees wouldn't become lax. That's also a danger.
Yeah.
So I may say, if you're too busy, you don't chant, but then you become lax. That's your problem. I didn't say become lax. I said if you're too busy, can't chant, don't chant. And continue when you can. And don't torture yourself, and don't beat yourself up afterwards. It doesn't do anything. But if we're too lax, then that's also okay. Beautiful questions. Like the question. I hope you're saving these. This could be a book called Nice Questions and Faltering Answers.
No, I was thinking about that as well.
With faltering answers?
No. Compiling as a book. Compiling as a book.
Nice questions. That is something which Prabhupada hardly ever got. Nice questions. My goodness. Any questions? Why do you wear that paint on your nose? He said. Next. In class, Bhagavatam. Or he'd give a class and ask for a question. The question had nothing to do with the class. In his mind, the question had to do with the class. But they could almost never get any questions. So, but if we just have questions, there was no class, so it can just be the question for the value of the question. And even then, the questions were borderline ridiculous. So these are very nice questions.
You say the rest of it.
No, I want to hear them. Unless we're closing.
Rasigananda asks, how can one stay connected to service in a proper mood while staying outside the ashram?
Good luck. Yeah, so when you go outside, it's almost impossible. That's almost impossible. Compared to what life is living, say, inside the ashram, where you're living with Krishna, that's the first thing. Sridhar said that. You're living with Krishna. Next, the opportunities is there for services day and night, all the time. And you have responsibility to make all that go forward. But when you go outside, you got to get up early. Nobody else is getting up early. You got to get up early. The modes of nature are, when you wake up, they're right there. Ha, ha, ha. Got you in an apartment building. You wake up. Just the Vastu, not the Vastu, the ether, you've got 300 other people in that building, and the deep, dense ignorance is sucking it in. And you wake up, try to push through that. And everywhere you go, it's just, here it's Hinduism. That's something. God bless the Hindus. You go to the West, The only people you see early in the morning are truck drivers. That's it. People going to work, heavy construction workers, steel work, just not an enlightened community up in the morning. And the so-called enlightened community in the West, the New Agers, what time do they wake up in the morning? Probably not before 7:30. So-called New Age, so-called enlightenment. They haven't got a clue. So very, very difficult. However, and I don't say it much because people say, oh yeah, now they're after the money. What else do you got? When you're out in the world, what else do you have that you can offer to Krishna? You're not a farmer, you don't have food. Or you could buy food and bring it to the temple, that's good. Well, that takes time and money. Now, you don't have time. So you can give, it's called service donations. Donating for service. So that those who are here, who have the time, can perform the service of the Lord. And that was the way the Vedic society was set up. You had the Brahmins, the priests, the Pujaris, the Hotris, all these people. They just did that all the time. But they didn't have to worry about getting a car, buying gas, bloody insurance. They didn't have to worry about all this nonsense. They had a whole society behind them. Now that society going to hell in a handbasket, and everybody is on their own. Every ashram, government's not helping. They just stand in your way most of the time. Stupid things. Visas, building permits. It's called prison planet. You just live under rule and regulation, as if you had no brain of your own. Whereas the Brahmins don't need to be told what to do. The enlightened people of the world don't need a government to tell them what to do. They don't need a government to tell them, don't take heroin. Make it illegal. I don't care. Make it legal, make it illegal. But I don't take heroin because it's illegal. I don't take heroin because it's poison. I don't drive, at, a safe speed because that's what it says on the sign. And if there's no sign, I'll just drive 100 miles an hour or something, 200 kilometers an hour. If you're in Europe, that's normal, right? 250 on the Autobahn, 250 kilometers an hour, and the sign says, please turn off your cell phone after reaching 250. And then, of course, there was the people chanting japa. I've ridden in a car at 200 miles and 200 kilometers an hour with a devotee chanting japa on a clicker, though. It was crazy. Where were we?
Talking about proper giving service donations.
Yeah, so on the outside, there's not that much that you have. So you have, wake up early, or as early as you can. You can do some chanting, you can do something, and then you're off. You have to fulfill life's obligations. Everything gets downhill, very tired. Now, but someone like Caitanya Das is working in a field, let's say, he can sell books, there's some preaching there, he sells pictures, things like that, so that's really nice. Prabhupada recommended that householders have a lifestyle. It's a little bit more like easygoing, and it might be hard work, but there's something there that's Krishna conscious. There's some way to stay connected, as he's saying. But if you just go off and work an IT job, like Sanatan, then the only way you can only come here, chant at home, give service donations, or do some service for the temple from your home, like he's able to do translation work, right? So that's a very nice service, very, very good service. So outside is much more difficult than inside. Much more difficult. Outside, much more difficult. Not to earn the life, not to live the life. That's not the hard part. The hard part is to be in Krishna consciousness, starting early in the morning, waking up early while you're doing that work. Like association, all that's nada. Here, you walk around, there's somebody to remind you or tell you about Krishna anytime you want to hear it. There's something to do all the time. I walk around this place just picking up rocks. Rather humble service, but get the rocks out of the grass and I throw them over the wall. There's so many things to do. Service is everywhere. And outside service is nowhere. You walk out your door and it's like, shut your door, go back inside. It's like, where can I do some service, you know? So we recommend to people, and everybody can't live in an ashram, nor is it meant to be that way. But people should come, stay in an ashram long enough, sometimes it's years required, depending on your age and what's possible, and learn what's up, what does it mean. So if you're going to be outside and then you're just going to hug the pillow and do all this stuff and sleep in and not going to chant, not going to do your gayatri, and you're not going to offer your food and everything, well then guess what? You're not going to be in Krishna consciousness at all. And given some time, it's going to show up. It will show in many ways. Otherwise, it's just business. And sannyasis are not meant for business. It's business. Business and sannyasis don't go together. It happens sometimes. People have to do what they have to do. Groups, institutions, we have to do what we have to do. But the goal is that sannyasis are not businessmen. They are preachers, not business people. So Sharma said the criterion of the acharya is not fundraising, management. He named 2 or 3 things like that, and he said the real criterion is the acharya must be able to extract the inner meaning of Shastra. What does it all mean? How does it work? What does it mean? He must have that reach. That's it. That's his job, to deliver that. Not to, he may come up with an idea for making money. It may succeed, it may fail. But I have seen in history, any sannyasi whose daily thing is business has problems. And the problems come from Krishna's not satisfied. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about your business. Your sannyasi cares about your preaching, not about your business. Not about your money, but about your bhakta, your bhakti, not money. But Srila Prabhupada also said, money's the honey. And we need the honey. So who should get the honey? It's supposed to be the householders. But most householders can only give a little bit here and a little bit there. And all of them taken together still isn't enough. So someone who wants to dedicate his life just for preaching, which is a more than 24-hour day job, actually, if you really accept the mantle of what it means, he can't do that. Because he has to make money. The ashram has to have money to exist. To pay taxes, to do anything. No money, no nothing. And the days of the wandering sadhu and how he's going to come to town and convert the king and all that bunk, that's all long gone. Nobody's converting the king. And you see these sadhus that are just out doing the real sadhu thing. What effect are they? They struggle just to get chapatis. So we live in a very different time. Very different time. And some of the things that we do and some of the schedules and the way we do and everything just aren't maintainable in a world that the rules were created 1,000 years ago, or 2,000, 5,000 years ago. We don't live in that same world anymore. There are some groups that do that, like which one of the Shankaracharyas doesn't ride in a car, doesn't ride in a plane, doesn't do anything. He walks everywhere he goes, and he walks with an elephant, a camel, a cow, all this hoo-ha, you know. But actually, he's just a Mayavadi. What's a Mayavadi? It says, you're God, I'm God, you're God. Nonsense. Lock him up. But because he goes everywhere on his foot, and he walks with an elephant, ooh, wah, and he's got long hair, and, you know, juttis, and a white beard, ooh, sadhu. But you squeeze him, just some kind of upgraded Hindu, Mayavadi, impersonal. And then they scorn the preachers of the Sankirtan movement, who use leather on drums, who fly in airplanes, all this kind of stuff. But you look and see, okay, what good effect they're having in the world. This one I'm telling you about right now, walking with the elephants, all that big group, triple murder case, killed 3 people, triple murder case, cost him millions of dollars to keep his neck out of the rope. And an ignorant population to forget. Right here, just a few years ago, right down there in Chennai, or not Chennai, where's it? Kanchipur, such a holy place. Triple murder inside an ashram, all about the money, black money, and all this big bucks money, silver throne gurus and all this bunk. Walking only with elephant. He worships cow, elephant, horse, or something. He does this thing every day and all this. Oh, he can't. He has to sit on a deer skin. Ooh, ha. But I've seen him take the deity of Krishna and set it on the ground. But the same sadhu won't sit down unless he's on a deer skin. It's a joke. It's all a show. That used to be the standard, say 500 or 1,000 years ago. It is neither beneficial for him nor anybody else to live like that today. There's only one religious principle in the age of Kali, and you can try to bend all the other ones any way you want it, but there's only one, and that's Harinam Sankirtan. There's not another one. There's one religious principle in Kali that you must give full attention to, and that's the holy name of Krishna. And all this other stuff is great fun. Homas, elephants, all this hoo-ha. Great fun, but not essential. So a friend sent me a picture of a Govardhan shield and asked me his opinion. I said, well, the Russians painted the eyes. I said, and that group, nobody uses the traditional conch shell eyes with the black charcoal center. They all use these really nicely painted eyes that the Russians do. They're very, very talented, these Russian devotees. So everybody uses those eyes. And then it's all very meticulously painted. The Govardhan with flowers on his face. It was only about this big, you know. And a tilak was a little artistic, I would say. It was a silver tilak with rhinestones, but it wasn't the standard shape. It was and it wasn't. It was a little stylized or something like that. In one sense, wow, beautiful. Very opulent. There was no gunjam. So this devotee asked me what I thought of this. I said, well, the Russians painted it, and that's in vogue and fashion in that group, and this and that and the other. I said, and he asked, is it all right to paint faces like this? And I said, well, painting faces on Govardhan has been around for centuries, as far as I know. I said, it is not essential. It's not essential. I said, but what is essential is that you worship Govardhan with Gunjamala, because there's a story here. The Govardhan, given Govardhan means you're given your eternal place of residence. For the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Mahaprabhu and Raghunath Das Goswami, Rup Sanatan, the eternal place, where you live, back to home, back to Godhead. Can I get an advance post office box for that, sir? Where? Oh, yes, legitimate. Where? Where will I live in that infinite world? I'm in the Gaudiya clan. Let's say you're in the Gaudiya clan. You're going to go and you succeed. Whoop! Krishna takes you back to Goloka Vrindavan. Where are you going? Where do you live? Govardhan. The eternal residence of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas is Govardhan. It's one of the, what is it called? The 11, Ekachakra Bhav. It's called, there are 11 items to your eternal service, where you live, your name, types of service groups, different things that they call Ekachakra Bhav. One of them is your residence. So when Das Goswami was given Govardhan Shila, that's by Mahaprabhu, he's given him the Govardhan Shila in Jagannath Puri, by the way. And Das Goswami understood that Mahaprabhu was given my place of residence eternally at Govardhan. Then he was given Gunjamala. And Gunjamala is the quintessential item for worshiping Govardhan. The quintessential item represents Radharani. And it represents service to Radharani. And our connection in the camp of Srimati Radharani is represented by that little string of beads of white, red, and black. Special mala called Gunjamala. So there was no Gunjamala. So I said, that which is most important, they could care less about. Proper Siddhanta, proper, they could care less about it. Big and opulent. That's what's in vogue. It was opulent, it was big. And any other question, you're just envious. That's the way it's laying out today. If you point towards the lack of substance, it's because they're so small, they're envious of our success. And it's just like, you know, you can think that. But that's not the thing. That's not the thing. So, my conclusion was it's just like everything else today. Big show up front, but when it's taken to some closer analysis, it's pretty much just a big show up front with not much proper understanding of what we're engaged in, what we're doing. And then, of course, some people turn Govardhan into Radharani and say Govardhan is Radharani. Then there's another one that says no, Govardhan is Krishna and the white rocks are Balaram and all this kind of stuff. Just read the books. Just go read the Bhagavatam. Balaram does not become Govardhan. Radharani does not become Govardhan. Yeah, make it all up as you go, but there's going to be big problems for that.
Yogamaya had a question. She said Diksha is defined in the Vishnu Yamala as that process by which divine knowledge is given and sins are destroyed. Mm-hmm. I'd like to know more about this and more specific about that the sins can be destroyed by taking Diksha and how it works. Mm-hmm. Why is it so powerful? Why is it given to few people? And what's the real importance of Diksha initiation?
Stick around and find out. Okay, read that again. That was a 3 or 4 in 1, right?
Yeah. She's talking about Diksha.
Yeah. Okay, Diksha, it doesn't mean just that moment, like, zzz, you got it, all your sins are gone, everything, zzz, you are connected. And then mantras are your repeated connection. Harinam initiation, Maha Mantra is your connection. You give up Harinam, you give up the holy name, you give up your connection. That is your connection. That's what you're given. That's it. That's the, don't go and unplug. You've been plugged in. But now it's a process. It's just not one act. Now you're initiated. Now you have more of the equipment to move forward in the process of purification and fixing Krishna as the central focus of your meditation. It's part of the process. You're given more of the equipment to move in that direction. So as far as sins, pop is concerned, that means karma. You have, at the time of initiation, when you get these mantras, you get Diksha, then the connection for your karma just burned. And now the karmic fan, which is now it slows down. If you re-plug it in and perform karmic activities and forbidden activities, all this type of stuff, it picks up again. You see, and then that becomes an offense to the name or offense to mantras. So it's a process. Initiation is the beginning of the process. It's like the marriage ceremony. First there's engagement, in a sense. People discuss and then they get married. There's actually that's a ceremony. But no kids? Oh, I got married, no kids. Oh, that'll take a while. Oh, we didn't fight on the first day. That will take a while too. Lots of things are coming. The marriage is just the beginning. And the next day isn't, well, in India, 2 months for good marriages. Nowadays, they're packing them in. But I remember when I got to India, a month for a marriage was so common. 2 weeks was short. Now it's 2 days. But it used to be a big thing. Go Tirupati, go all over South India, go up north, wherever you were from. You just went on big buses, whole families going. No time. No time, dear. No time for that anymore. Everybody's working like a slave in this world, just to survive.
Chaitanya asks, in South India, as I observe, the faith of the followers of Shankara, Ramanuja and Madhva has no proper philosophical foundation or understanding in their ritualistic practices, especially in deity worship. It seems that it is only limited to debates among so-called learned personalities. belonging to their respective sampradaya. In this situation, for this society, how can we establish with scriptural evidences that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy stands highest among all the known theistic conceptions?
Well, you can't. I mean, you can, but they're not going to change. Better men than you have tried. Mahaprabhu himself tried. And they didn't follow, did they? Once they've entered into a certain plane, it's hard to... Anupam, he met Mahaprabhu. Anupam was the younger brother of Rup Sanatan. Anupam. And he was presented with Krishna. Here is Mahaprabhu. And the Krishna conception. And he begged to be out from that. Because he was already in to Vaikuntha conception. And he could not give up the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. So that was a plus. The Vaikuntha Bhakti. Don't try to make everybody understand Mahaprabhu is the highest. You understand that he's the highest and you follow. This isn't a competition. Like, my God's the highest. Our Guru is the best. All this kind of stuff. And in South India, they have never been big takers. Either from Mahaprabhu, from Bhakti Siddhanta, from any Gaudiya preacher, or any Hare Krishna. It's only when they added materialism to the Hare Krishna movement in mass that you got all these people joining. You get this. You be member, you get nothing. You be member, you get nothing but service and the blessing of God. Forget it. I want 3 free days in your guest house. I need a full stock of all. I want my magazine. Where's my magazine? We used to call them life moochers. Life moochers. They pay this one amount, and now you are their servant. The Krishna is their servant. The temple is their motel patel, the place to stay when they go to New York and all this kind of stuff. So in South India, very pious and very much into the Vishnu Bhakti. Even the Madhvas, they're into Vishnu Bhakti, they're not into Braj Bhakti. Isn't it? But you see, there are people, some from Smarta, somebody from Ramanuja, somebody from here, somebody from Madhva, somebody, all these, because these are just old traditions. And tradition and culture has strength and value. And compared to the knowledge of the world, I would think. But it's so hard to enter that knowledge from outside. The knowledge of the Sri Vaishnavas or the Madhvas or any of these ancient groups from outside. They're so cloistered, their own community. They have no potency for outside, and their communities are shrinking. They're shrinking. Sankirtan movement isn't about a particular caste or community. It's people from every caste, every community, every nationality, every race, Chinese, African, American, Indian, Polynesian, Indonesian. What do you mean caste? Caste is gone. Kalo Sudra Sambhava. In Kali Yuga, everybody's a Sudra. There are no castes. They're born exalted. Not in Kali Yuga. Not now. In the past, yes, but not now. Not in Kali Yuga. So all these things don't have potency. They have money, and things are done. They've made temples all over the world. They made them in Australia, they made them in Canada, they made temples, gopurams, and all this kind of stuff all over the world. And they're seen as more like a cultural phenomenon. People don't encounter and change their life. So, what was the bottom of the question was, therefore, what?
Making temples of Krishna in India because of
Well, don't say, we're not to say Kanishta. It's like, there are many Kanishtas here also. Everyone here not yet. Madhya. On the way, but not yet there. So, I don't know those people. I don't know what stage they were at. All I see is their temple is the worship of Vishnu Krishna. It's not the worship of Braj Krishna. So we're not against that. We're not like, we're their enemies or something like that. We're also not atheists. We worship Krishna, but we're also not against the existence of God. Whereas, some devotees try to act that they're on such a high level of just pure love that even the God factor has no reality for them, and that's just their foolishness. That's just their foolishness. Pretend that they're on such a level.
Advaita asks, Srila Maharaj explains that there are three kinds of guru. One with both feet in the material world but eyes towards the spiritual world, the other with one foot here and one foot there, and the third with both feet in the spiritual world. Could you kindly explain this?
There was a fourth one.
Oh.
Both feet in the material world and eyes shut. Yes, so both feet in the material world means ascending, but has not come in contact with the personal representatives of the Supreme Lord, contacted the Shastra, good endeavor, understanding and going forward. And the other is a much more desirable, and that is that progress is made and some touch in this world. Now here's where the problem gets a little confusing. People say, so I want Uttamadakari guru. Well, you're probably never going to find one. Even if you met one, you wouldn't know how to find one. Uttamadakari gurus don't really become gurus. The work of guru is the work of Madhyam Adhikari. So an Uttam comes down to the level of a Madhyam Adhikari to be guru. So he's Paramahansa, but Paramahansa, Parabhajakacharya, there's so many, what do we call those words, laudations, there's so many prefixes of glorification.
He comes down to the Madhyama Tattva.
Yes, and if he's got both feet in the spiritual world, how he'll be your guru? How? Because you don't know what Uttamadhikari is. Uttamadhikari thinks himself lower than you. How be your guru? I am lower than you. I'm more insignificant than you. I'm not even a Vaishnava. That would be the thinking of both feet in the spiritual world. Well, in this world. So how he will reach us, how we will reach him, unreachable. Therefore, he puts one foot back into this world. As Prabhupada said, they asked him, well, if you have mystic powers, why do you fly in airplanes? And Prabhupada said, to be one with you. Just to be with you. You understand? One is very dangerous. No real realization. The other, realization, on the right path, proper conception, goal is there. And the other, well, that's to die for. But they'll say, well, Prabhupada's a Paramahansa. They say, that may be, but he was acting like a Madhyam. And when they go to the Paramahansa level, then immediately everybody misunderstands. And you can see, in the last days where they go, final order, all this stuff is coming out. Prabhupada's going in final stage of life, full Paramahansa bhav, feelings, everything, withdrawal, and they're misreading the whole thing. Throwing away all that was given before and creating some final, what they call final order. Govinda Maharaj commented, oh, you see, all of you are seeing Sridhar Maharaj in Paramahansa stage. You should have been here 40 years ago. We were afraid to go in his room and give him prasadam, he said. We used to argue with each other, oh, you taking the prasadam, I did it last time. Very heavy, very strong. Doesn't mean that he's shouting and yelling. I mean, it was this whole, maybe one saying a word, just the whole atmosphere. But it's very austere. There's so many things. He said, now you're seeing Guru Maharaj in Paramahansa Bhav, like your great-grandfather, so gentle, this, that, everything. But the day when he would rise up out of his chair, man, people would take off running in every direction when the Paramahansa decided to give out some sauce. Paramahansa sauce, everybody just would run, literally run out the gate, hide somewhere. One devotee just jumped under his bed, hid underneath his bed. And by the way, the first disciple of Sri Sridhar Maharaj was Haricharan Prabhu, Krishna Charan Prabhu. He later became Aranya. Bhakti Prasanna Aranya. And so his age was some 90-ish, almost 100, no?
Almost 100.
Yeah, he's really up there. Anyway, not anyway, but his departure from this world was the morning, the day before Janmashtami. Just a couple days. Did I finish that?
No.
That was it. How
There was one more question.
All right.
This was from Ashasaki. Is patience a good thing in devotional service?
Oh, definitely. Anybody heard Upadeshamrita? Utsaya Nisjat, Nischaya, Dhiryat, Prama Pravartana. Enthusiasm, patience, and determination. Enthusiasm, Utsaya. Which one? Determination first or patience? Nischaya, Utsaya, Nischaya.
Determination is Nischaya, and Daryat is
Daryat, patience. Yeah, right? Patience. It's like a mother wants a child. Great. There is a process. Not like, I want a child. Well, then go to the adoption agency. That's something different. But that's not your child. That's a child. Things that Prabhupada gave that example. He said a mother cannot say, I'm married, where's the children? It's like, there's a process. It takes time. So patience is required. And in that, Prabhupada takes the example. It says, first, the wife must serve the husband. There was a cultural way. They didn't just produce kids, come back from the honeymoon. Oh, guess what? It's like, it wasn't like that. Life was looked at very differently. And so then he says, so patience is required. And then one must, engage in the service, and the husband has his responsibilities, and in due course there will be. But patience is required. So everything in this world requires some patience. And people who are impatient, often make the wrong decisions. But in spiritual life, it's an indispensable quality.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.